Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We are here today with David Gugick, who is the Vice President of Product Management for MSP360. Welcome, David. How's your day today?
Hey, really good. Thanks for having us, Scott. We're excited about being here. We love coming back and working with you and your team on doing these webcasts for your members. We're
That's
excited.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been a supporter for us for a long time. We really appreciate that. Back before MSP360, before the rebranding, back when y'all were Cloudberry Labs. So we're very appreciative. But I understand you've got some new products rolled out, and I'm excited to go over those with you today.
Yeah, we have a bunch of new stuff in what we call the MSP360 platform. So for
Okay.
those of you who are not familiar, we'll go through everything, including backup, which is kind of like the product that most folks know about. And it's an important product, so we'll talk about it as well. I just want to mention that we are giving away a Sonos Play 1. You can see a little image of it up in the top right there. It's a great speaker. Even if you're not invested yet in the Sonos ecosystem, even having a single speaker is great. So if you do want to be entered for the giveaway, since we're live streaming this on Facebook, we'll need you to comment. You can talk about MSP360 if you're already using us and what you like about it. If you're just evaluating us now, just say why you're evaluating us. So leave a comment and we'll get you entered, and then we'll reach out to the winner probably after the webcast once we collect all the comments and everything. And we may post just the first name of the winner on the Facebook page. I'll leave that up to Scott. But do feel free to get entered. We have those. We want to give them away. And if you're here, you should be entered to win it.
Sounds great. I love the Sonos ecosystem. It's very nice platform and works very well. So that's great. Now, David, remind me, you're in the Northeast, right?
I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Philadelphia area in Wilmington, Delaware, just south of Philadelphia.
Okay,
I'm
well,
from New York, so I grew up here, but I did go to college in the Midwest at University of Michigan back in the day. So
all
I have
right.
a lot of love for that university.
Good deal. Well, I am directly below you in South Carolina, and it's a beautiful 88 degrees and sunny today. So I'm not sure how much longer this beautiful weather is going to last, though. It'll
Um,
start, I think Thursday, they said, is the first day of fall.
September 21st is tomorrow, I think, is the first day. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
maybe it's Tuesday, maybe it's Thursday, the 22nd. I forget the autumn equinox, whatever they called it back in the day, if I'm trying to remember my science. But yes,
That's
coming
right.
up. But I expect that in South Carolina, you are going to have summer until late October, early
Well,
November.
I've always wear shorts at Christmas time, so
Yeah, there you go.
I like wearing shorts period year round, and this state allows you to do that. So
It does.
awesome. So the you've got a couple products in the ecosystem for the MSP360, hence the name branding, the rebranding MSP360, because we've got several products, not just the All Glorious Backup.
Yeah, so we still have our managed backup product, and that
Okay.
continues to evolve and improve and expand. We have tons of customers not only using it now. We'll talk more about the product for Windows and Mac OS, but using it for to back up Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace and all that great stuff. But we have recently added, and we'll talk more about them, so I won't spend a lot of time on them here, a new remote monitoring and management product that we built from the ground up, our RMM product, as well as our Connect product, which is for secure remote access for help desk or unattended access for administration. And we are partnering with Deep Instinct. You can see the logo down there. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but we're going to set up a separate webinar for probably next week to go over Deep Instinct in more detail. That is endpoint protection using very cool technology that can really help you and your customers prevent you from getting hit by ransomware, zero-day attacks. It's a very interesting technology used by a lot of big companies out there, and we're bringing it into the MSP space to our customers through our most recent partnership that we'll talk more about.
Very nice. Well, I'm excited to dig in.
All right. So I think it's always worth kind of kicking things off with our backup services because we've been in the space more than 10 years. We designed our managed backup product from the ground up for the MSP community. And while we do sell quite extensively to businesses in general, MSPs were our first customer. And we wanted to make sure that it was affordable and very easy to use and powerful, because we know that as MSPs, you are reselling services to your customers. So you need to buy them at the lowest possible price so you can make a generous profit without overcharging your customers and pricing yourself out of competitive deals. And that's important to us, which is why when we talk about pricing later, we'll talk about how inexpensive it is to buy from us and how leveraging the public cloud that we'll talk about can be quite advantageous from not only a protection perspective, but also from a cost savings perspective. So what do we back up? Well, I've already mentioned some of the things we back up when I mentioned Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. Those are hosted applications in the cloud. They have to be backed up just like anything else. You need to make sure, emails, calendar, contacts, your Drive, OneDrive, maybe your SharePoint Online, all that stuff is backed up. But we do back up Windows in all of its flavors, both desktop and server operating systems, a variety of Linux distributions, Mac OS, hypervisor level backups for host level backups for VMs for Hyper-V and VMware, as well as Microsoft SQL Server, their relational database. We can do native SQL Server backups and bring them into our platform, as well as Exchange. If you have anybody running on-prem Exchange, we do still support that. Now, we do support a variety of different types of backups: file folder, image, virtual machine, obviously, flexible recovery, so you can restore files from any type of backup, whether it's an image, a whole VM snapshot, or a file level backup. Everything's very easy to manage. Centralized administration. We're a SaaS platform, so you manage everything from our thin client management console. No server components that you need to install anywhere, either at the MSP or at your customer. All of communication happens fully encrypted between the agents that you deploy at your customers and the storage, whether it's local like a NAS or the public cloud, which is what we're going to talk about on the next slide. So we know that backup is a must-have service. We have talked about, and the industry has talked about in large extent, 3-2-1 backups, making sure that you keep 3 copies of your customer data, that there are 2 of those. One of those is the live data, obviously 2 backups. One of those backups is off-site. In the old days, that used to be tape. We don't really work with customers that use tape. I realize there are still big companies out there that may have invested in a large tape infrastructure, and tape seems to improve all the time in terms of storage and costs, but it's tape. It's not really a good fit for our customers. Most of our customers don't want to have to contract out to have those tapes moved off site somewhere every day. They'd rather back up someplace that's offsite, that's somewhat air gap from their local network, access through different APIs. And that's really where the public cloud comes in. So rather than offer customers private cloud storage that we either build out ourselves or co-locate in somebody else's data center with limited regional options and a cost that we would then have to pass onto the MSPs, that the MSPs would then need to pass on to their customers, we let you integrate with any of the public cloud storage options. So you can see on the right, there's Wasabi, Amazon's AWS with their S3 and Glacier, Microsoft Azure, Backblaze B2, as well as Google Cloud. We integrate with all the public cloud storage vendors, including Minio, which is an open source option for exposing your own data center as S3 compatible storage. You can open up your own accounts with any of those cloud storage vendors. So you open up directly, you'll be paying them directly. And that flexibility means that you can tailor your backup services to your customers, the kinds of customers that you service and the kind of pricing that you need. If you're working with small businesses that don't have a lot to spend and you need to get that data offsite, you can use a solution like Wasabi or Backblaze and pay $5 to $6 a terabyte per month for storage. If you're working with, say, a big law firm and they have an existing relationship, say, with Amazon, and they would prefer you back up to S3, you can do that as well. In fact, you can even back up to your customers' own storage accounts if you're working with a customer that has an AWS account. And they're like, you know what, we want to control our backups. We'll give you the security credentials to back up to our cloud storage that we own, and you could handle it that way if you wanted to. It's completely flexible. It's up to you. You can open up any number of accounts with any number of cloud storage vendors. You're paying the lowest possible price, which is important because that means better profit margins for you. You need to pay your employees, pay your rent, feed your dog. You do want to retire someday, I hope. Although, when is that ever going to happen? I don't know. I'll probably be working till the very end.
You and me both.
I like working, so that might happen. I will say that it's important to buy things at the lowest possible price while giving your customers what they need, because then you can charge them an appropriate amount. You won't price yourself out of competitive deals. You won't be overcharging your customers and put them in a position where they're continually shopping for replacement services from somebody else. You can dial in the right thing. Now, for those of you who are maybe small, or you're just getting into backup services, and you're getting started and you would prefer not to have separate bills for your storage and your backup licenses. And by the way, we don't charge, and we'll show this on the next tab, but we don't charge based on how much you're backing up. We don't care. It's just fixed price for each type, for different type of license. But we do have one bill options, unified billing, we call it, with Wasabi and Amazon S3. So we can resell those storage options to you, the MSP, at the same price you would pay for by going with them directly, with a few advantages, actually, if you buy it through us. So with Wasabi, only a 30-day retention requirement versus 90. If you buy it directly from Wasabi, Amazon S3, there'll be no data egress or API charges. So flat rate, $23 per terabyte for S3 standard in the United States. Now, when we talk about making money, I usually have a few different slides here. This is one I'll just talk about. Bundling backup services tends to be different based on the MSPs that you're speaking to. You all have different ways of bundling it up. Sometimes they're sold a la carte based on just cloud storage. Sometimes, like this example here, which is based on a real customer that we have, you might be charging a certain amount for every month for desktops, maybe more for servers because they're more expensive to manage, maybe throwing in a little space. But let's look at an example here. This particular customer has 750 endpoints, 500 desktops, 250 servers. After discounts with us, that comes out to about, it comes out to about $3.20 a license per month. That's the cost that you would pay to MSP360. Now they're backing up a little over 200 terabytes, and this customers decided, this MSP has decided they're going to back up to Wasabi. So the cost of Wasabi is $6 a terabyte, roughly 59/100ths of 1 US cent per gigabyte. So pretty low. The way they sell to their customers is $10 for desktop backup, and they throw in 100 gigabytes of space free, $25 for servers per month, and they throw in 250 gigabytes free. And anything over that pooled storage amount for those 750 endpoints and servers, they charge only 6 cents per gigabyte. Now, if you're going to buy private cloud storage from other competitors of ours, you may be spending 25 cents or more per gigabyte just for the privilege of using their private cloud. Depends on your contracts and how soon you got in, but we've seen prices as high as close to 50 cents per gigabyte. That's per gigabyte. It's ridiculous. Here, this example, they're selling for only 6 cents, which is very inexpensive. They're buying it for 1/10 that price. So it's a pretty big markup on the storage. And they make a little bit of money on the, the $10 desktops, $25 servers. If we look at the graph at the bottom, the out-of-pocket cost for the MSP for storage for all the backup licenses is roughly $3,600 a month. But the revenue that they're bringing in is over $17,000. And that's with a very generous model. I mean, many of the MSPs we work with will sell storage for a much higher amount. 8, 10 cents, 12 cents a gigabyte, or even more, depending on the customers they're working with. And that could really drive up your margins considerably and allow you to generate more profit every month. So the point of this example is not to say this is how you have to sell your backup. You know how to sell your backup. You're in the business of selling services to your customers, and you know the best way to bundle it. But there's a lot of flexibility in the waiver licenses, with licenses that start at only $5 a month for desktops, 10 for servers. That's before discounts. And you can bundle that up, sell your customers the storage that they need using the cloud storage provider that's best for them based on price or features, and make a lot of money, which is important, while protecting their environments.
All great points.
I agree. We do run into a lot of MSPs that are very concerned about prices. And in fact, when we talk to MSPs at a lot of the shows that we go to, and they're shopping for a replacement solution, something that MSPs are prone to do. MSPs tend to be very technical. You know, they're owner operated, a lot of them, so they're running businesses while they're maintaining their technical expertise with the products in the industry. They often say that one of the reasons they're looking is because they're paying way too much and they can't monetize it. And when you can't monetize a service, it doesn't mean you can't sell that service. You have to sell it. So if your service is not allowing you to properly monetize it and generate a profit to pay all your bills and save money, then there might be an opportunity for you to look at us from that perspective, separate from all the features that we have in the product. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, we have other products in our portfolio, and RMM is one of those. It's been around now, I think, a little more than a year. And remote monitoring management is important for MSPs because you want the ability not only to be alerted when a problem happens with an endpoint or a server, but if you do need to do some remediation, short of actually connecting remotely through something like our Connect product or whatever remote desktop solution you're using, you want to be able to remediate that particular issue, or at least investigate and figure out what's going on. So we created RMM to provide a very clean, intuitive user interface. It's fully managed, as we'll see during the demo, from our management console. Each license, and we are licensed, by the way, based on you know, an admin or a technician. So if you're an MSP with 3 technicians and they all need access to the RMM product, you need 3 licenses. The licenses are $59.99 per technician. And that also includes our remote desktop product called Connect that we'll talk about more on the upcoming slides. And that's unlimited endpoints. So $60 roughly per technician gives them access to any number of endpoints you have out there, whether it's 100 or 3,000, it doesn't matter. Just license the technicians. And the whole idea is that, you know, you're going to save money by reducing complexity and improving your margins, actually finding work to do if you're billing you know, hourly to remediate certain types of issues. It's currently available for remote Windows systems, but we do have a Mac OS version 1 coming very soon with alerting, at least for Mac OS. Now, some of the things we do, if I go to this very ugly slide, okay, it's a bullet-filled slide, and I'm only going to put it up here for you to read. I'm not going to read through all these things because I'm going to show you most of what we can do on the demo, but we do a lot of real-time statistics. We allow you to manage things like run PowerShell and do Windows patch management and do group actions across multiple endpoints if needed at the same time. Edit the registry, do all that good stuff. So you can look over this list or just wait for the demo and we'll talk more about it, which is usually my recommendation. Okay. The next product that is available with RMM or available by itself, if you're happy with your RMM product and you're not ready to switch, but you're looking for a remote desktop solution that allows you to securely connect to remote endpoints, MSP360 Connect might be a great solution for you. Right now, it supports connecting to remote Windows systems, and you can connect from Windows, Mac, iOS, or Android. We'll be adding support to connect to a remote Mac system, Mac OS, pretty soon, probably later this year. I don't have exact, but it's already in the works. And it's remote desktop solutions are really important because if you can't do what you need to do with a product like your RMM, then you may need to remotely connect. Now, the reasons you remotely connect will probably fall into 2 different categories. One, you're going to connect to a remote user interactively while they're on for help desk functions. You may be teaching them how to use a piece of software. You may be showing them how to fix an issue that they're having. They may have questions for you that they can't adequately demonstrate, write up in a help desk ticket, and you're completely confused. So you're going to connect to them and they're going to show you, and you're going to help fix the problem interactively. But for those times where you have to do remote administration, there's a server in a closet you need to access. You clearly don't want to have to go to the customer site if you don't want to. You're probably already using some remote desktop solution. Connect can do that, allow you to remote into a remote system, you know, fully credentialed by typing in, you know, the Windows authentication credentials. It's fully encrypted. We use the WebRTC framework for encryption for high performance. Again, it's licensed per technician per admin. If you already have the RMM product, then that administrator or that technician is already licensed. However, if you want to just use Connect without RMM, you can license it for $34.99 a month, also with unlimited endpoints. And then again, the ugly slide with all the things you can do. I'm not going to talk about this because I'm going to show it to you in the demo, but have a quick look so you can see. You can do things like multiple admins connecting to the same remote system if you're doing kind of training on the MSP side. You can black out a remote screen if you need to do something that you don't want the end user to be able to see. As I mentioned, everything's fully encrypted. Interactive sessions require confirmation from the end user. You're never going to be able to get on a system. Your customers don't have to worry about unauthorized access to an existing session. You can either do unattended access by typing in Windows credentials and you get full access to the remote system, or you can connect to an interactive session by having the end user provide you a PIN, or there's a new confirmation option in there where if they're expecting a call from you, they can just click approve and you're on without the need to exchange any type of PIN or anything like that. So I think it's worthwhile doing a demo, and I just realized my laptop is completely not where I need it for typing. So I'm going to just do a little shuffling around over here. Give me 1 second so I can get this laptop in front of me and I can actually show a demo. Okay, so right now I'm going to get over to our management console.
While you're looking that up,
Yeah.
David, I was going to tell you, Bobby Rose has entered himself in the contest. He said several things he likes about MSP360: excellent dashboard to view backup status across the enterprise, easy to set up and install backup agent, is not resource intensive on the hardware. Very good points.
All right, I appreciate that. And we'll actually talk about that. So those are really good points. I want to mention I'm already logged in here. But we do support two-factor authentication. And if you're going to do things in RMM that could potentially change the remote system, you're going to need to turn 2FA on. And we recommend it's on for everyone. So there is a master administrator account that you'll be using to log into the system initially when you sign up. Let me just move my little preview window out of the way here. And if you were to edit that master administrator account, you can see there's an enable 2FA option. If you want to set up 2FA for the main administrator, obviously in all of the sub admins that you can be creating, because you're probably going to want all of your technicians logging into the service with their own credentials so they can be managed differently. Go to settings general and turn on the force 2FA for all administrators option. That'll force them to sync up with either Google or Microsoft Authenticator on the first login once their accounts are created. But let's pretend you're coming in here the first time. You've set up 2FA for yourself. You're the only person. So all you're interested in right now is getting started. Well, there is going to be an onboarding wizard that I don't have accessible to show you here since I've already kind of onboarded myself. That will walk you through the process in a slightly more streamlined fashion. But once you've gone through the onboarding wizard, you'll just be in the interface as you are here. And so I think it's probably worthwhile, let me go full screen here, showing you how to do things as you might do them once you have that initial customer onboarded. One of the things you'll have to do initially, and you may not have to do again, is set up your storage account. So let's go over here to storage on the left under storage accounts. And then we will go ahead and we'll see that we have the option here on the top right to add an account. And here's where you'll see all of the different cloud storage options I mentioned. There's a few other on there I didn't mention. File system. You would use file system for local backups at a customer of yours, say to a NAS, some kind of any kind of network share that might be set up on a server, or even to some local drive if you needed to do that for some reason. You can set that up there. If, however, you're going to be connecting to a cloud, you would pick the cloud service. Now, if you want to use our integrated storage or integrated billing options for Wasabi or Amazon, those are the ones down here. And you can just sign up for them just by clicking on them and start using them. And then you'll get billed based on your average use over the month for all the storage you have there for all your customers. But if you're going to use your own account, more likely, then you will just click on the type of storage you're using. Now, if you don't know how to sign up for your cloud storage account, there'll be instructions and the little sign up link down here in our online help. Walk you through the process of signing up with the organization, how to get the security credentials that you need for that particular cloud storage vendor. You would give your account a friendly display name, decide on the authentication type. There may be a few options depending on the cloud that you're dealing with. Maybe you can use IAM roles, maybe you can use the access key secret key, maybe you're working with customers in the US government. And in that case, you want to make sure you're backing up to GovCloud, so you can check that option as well. Now, once your account is registered, you need to create your backup destinations. And so I already have a few created, let's say for my Amazon account. But let's pretend like we're going to add a new one. There's none there. I'll click the add destination. Oh, Alexa, stop. Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I think my Alexa device just went offline and she was bothering me, which is why I was telling her. So if anybody else heard me talk to the A girl, as I call her, because I don't want to say her name out loud, I hope I didn't trigger her at your local office. Anyway, we could give the new destination bucket called, ITBOG demo. And I'll say that'll be the display name, and I'll give it the same name. I'll just call it ITBOG, and I can also select any region I want. So we support all the regions for all the cloud storage vendors. So we're in the US. We're on the East Coast. I say Northern Virginia is as close to South Carolina as we're likely to get.
All right.
I could pick that region. If I do want to use immutability, and we'll talk about immutability because I didn't mention a lot of it earlier. Immutability allows you to lock your cloud backups in the cloud. We support it with Amazon, with Wasabi, and now Backblaze B2 until those backups expire based on your retention settings. And you'll see that as we walk through the backup wizard. Immutability is an important option to have, and it can really protect you against being hit by ransomware. One of the problems that customers can have, and MSPs by relationship, your MSP customers can have, is if they get hit by ransomware, ransomware is going to do a good job about kind of exploring the network probably before it does anything. It's going to look for all the network shares, start encrypting stuff before it kind of locks down the endpoints. But it will likely find your network shares, and it may encrypt backups locally. Now you're backing up into the cloud, and that's fine. And because you can lock down the agents and you can turn off the ability to delete backups from the agents if you want, and your agents can only access the cloud through cloud APIs with credentials that are separate from your local network. There is some protection that's afforded just by putting your data in the cloud. But for an extra level of protection, should anybody get access, whether that's malware, ransomware, a disgruntled employee, or somebody doing account management who maybe is about to make a terrible mistake, you can use the immutability features. If you do want to use immutability, you must enable it at bucket creation time. You don't have to use it if it's created, if it's turned on here. If you do want to, if you have a bucket that's already created that without immutability on, you decide you want to use immutability, often called object lock or worm, write once, read many. With the cloud, you just have to create a secondary bucket. Now, you can create as many buckets as you want. You can create a bucket per customer if you want. That's not necessary because your customers will be authenticated differently and they can't see each other's backups, but it's entirely up to you about how you want to manage your storage. So create a bucket for each customer, create one bucket for all of your customers in a region. It's fine regardless how you set it up. All right, so I'm going to cancel this since I already have the buckets created. And then I'm going to do the next thing, which is let's onboard a customer. You have your storage created. You probably won't have to come back there again unless you're creating a separate destination for each customer or you're going to add a secondary or tertiary, cloud storage option. So the next thing we have to do is create some customers. So let's onboard a customer. I have a customer created here called Intrinsic Design Demo, but let's say you're creating it from scratch. You're going to give it a friendly name. And really all you need to do, and I'm not going to go through all these options because there's a lot here. I'm going to say the one thing you do have to do is add at least one backup destination. That way, when you start creating backup plans for all of the endpoints at this company, at this customer of yours, they will have at least one backup destination to go to. So if you're creating a destination specific to each one of your customers, then you'll just add that destination here. If you're sharing, just add the share here. If you want to add more than one, is you can see I have here, I got a Wasabi and 2 different locals and an Amazon S3 destination all selected. So I'll be able to pick from any of them. Now, I do want to mention RMM since we're going to be showing it a little later on. And I'll be talking more about it, but I'm just going to mention that there's an RMM tab here. This is just for an RMM notification separate from the interactive stuff you can do. All your RMM notifications will be pulled from a set of global defaults, which you can adjust those global defaults if needed, or you can override by using the override option. So you can decide based on the customer level what kind of notifications you'd like to get from them. And that's really it. I'll talk more about agent options later, but I don't think it's really important to go through here. Otherwise, we will just be talking about options the whole time and everybody will fall asleep. So we onboarded, we have this new customer created. Now we need to create an authentication account. We call them users. I think of them as service accounts for each one of your customers. This is how the endpoints at your customers will log into the service. You can create a single user account for each one of your customers. So I have one here called IDI Demo. Even though we have a first name, last name, doesn't have to be a person. I don't think of it as a person. I give it a user account name. There is a password that's auto-assigned that you can change. The only time you'll need to use the username and password both is if you authenticate the agent while working on the agent itself. There's a much easier way to do it right from here, right from the management console, where you can just pick the service account directly. You're already authenticated into the service, so assigning it to a customer of yours we don't require you enter the password again. And you can see here that I've assigned them to the Intrinsic Design Demo company. That's the one assignment that needs to happen. So we have the service account now for that customer of yours. So the next thing we need to do is get some agents out there. And the way you do that is from the downloads page. I believe somebody mentioned that they like the way the downloads work. Let me walk you through it. Click on downloads. Let me get a drink. And you see that little pane pop up on the right that lists all of the available agents that we have. So you can see Windows, Virtual Machine Edition, the RMM agent is there, 2 different distributions for Linux, RPM and Debian builds, as well as Mac OS. And also that will walk through some options for Connect. And this is where you do the downloading. Now, the thing to point out is that by default, in options, in this little options tab, we have something called a sandbox enabled. A sandbox is a place for the MSP to get new builds ready, but play with them internally if you want before you make them available to your customers. As the MSP, you are in complete control of when new agents roll out for backup and RMM, and if you turn on auto updating that we'll talk about in a little bit for Connect as well. So you can see here that there's a new version available, and I could update the sandbox version, which is 7.2.0 with 7.7.1.4.0. That was for the virtual, which I don't really use. We can see here up for Windows, there's a latest sandbox edition, and the public edition is up there. So once I get the latest sandbox edition, it'll go in the sandbox, and then I can download it, play with it at the MSP, test it to make sure it doesn't cause any problems. If you're worried, maybe there's a new feature that's been added, you want to learn how to do it before you roll it out. And once you make the sandbox public using the Make Public button, it'll become the new public version. And once you do that, all of the existing agents of that type out there will auto-update themselves. So you don't have to do anything. So that's the ease of updating. Now, you do need to get the agent out there the first time. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can download the agent right from here and run an interactive install. So if you're on site, and you're onboarding a handful of systems, maybe doing an interactive install, which takes about 20 seconds to run through the install would be the easiest way. You could copy the link here and send it out to somebody. Maybe you have a technician on site or a technical person at the customer you're working with that can do the installs for you. You can generate a PowerShell script. You can, download it and push it out through your RMM or our RMM if you're doing it that way. There are silent MSI install options. You can install it through Active Directory if you need it. There's a lot of ways to get it out there. But as I mentioned, once it's out there and completely updated silently using this option over here, which is on by default, allow automatic updates. As soon as you say there's a new version available for deploying. So you're in control, which is nice. Now,
very nice.
a lot of time you're going to be spending a lot of time over here in computers remote management. Now, I mentioned that you deployed it, it's out there, but you haven't yet typed in user credentials. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you could type in the user ID and the password that I told you earlier. You don't have to remember that password because you're going to be doing it more easily from here. And this is the remote management page where you can do a lot of stuff, create plans and do a lot of management on each of the agents. And one of the things you can do is when you come out here the first time, there will be no company and service account, or as we call them in the system, users assigned. There'll be an option here to do a quick assignment, which comes over here and does the gear icon edit account option, where you can just pick the user account that you created. And like I said, we'll do the assignment. Now, if you're on a build that allows for different editions, that was a desktop build over there, I mean a server build. You can pick the edition over here if you need to change it. If it defaulted to server and you want to make it SQL Server edition, you can do that as well by changing the edition here. So it's pretty easy to do. If you installed RMM that way and there was no license granted, there'll be an option to grant a license right here. And if you ever do need to buy a new license, you can do it very easily with the buy new button right from the user interface. And there will be an option soon for MSPs to do post billing. So if you do sign up and you'd like to try that option, I believe the engineering team can turn that on for you. Post billing doesn't require that you buy licenses in advance. We will detect what licenses are installed and bill you automatically based on actual use at the end of the month. And I'll just mention that we do have monthly licensing with no commitment. You can cancel at any time. Licenses can be moved even within the month. If you remove a license from one customer, you could deploy the remainder of that term for that license to another customer. We do have annual term options as well. So if you want to save a little bit of money and you can have a fixed number of endpoints out there, or a pretty good idea about how many you could save and buy annual licenses. So you can do a lot of the management from here, which is quite nice. One of the things you can do is also create plans. So if I wanted to create plans for an endpoint, I could do it in two ways. I can do it at the endpoint level, or a way I'm not going to show here. I can do remote deploy, where I could deploy default settings to a customer, as well as set up default backup plans that could be deployed across multiple endpoints. But let's pretend we're just going to do a one-off for a particular endpoint. I can click on the endpoint name or go to that gear icon and say show plans, and I can create a new backup plan. Now I have one here I'm going to use. But if I were going to create a new one, I would just click this plus button over here. There's a variety of options. We do have a legacy format out there. If you're already using the product or you're familiar with it, that's still around, not going anywhere. But we do have a new backup format available that has a lot of advantages if you're dealing with customers with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of files, especially with file backups. It has built-in consistency checking and restore verification for image-based backups. It uses client-side deduplication as well as synthetic full backups for all backup types. There's a lot of advantages to the new backup format, so definitely consider using it. This is a new backup format one. I want to edit it. I'm going to walk you through all the options through the wizard here so you can understand them. And I'll just scratch my head while this is for some reason loading. By the way, if anybody has any questions, I don't know. I wonder if I lost my internet. No, I didn't lose my internet.
Yeah, you're still here.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. So I was wondering why it was taking so long to load. Anyway, we have this new backup format, and the first thing you have to do is select a target location. So I have one here. I'm going to pick a Wasabi because I think it has immutability enabled on it, so I can show you that option. Now, a few options here. We can backup permissions. This is a file-based backup, not an image, and we do image-based backup as well, obviously. But this is a file-based backup. You can back up permissions if you want. So if you're ever concerned about having to restore a file or a set of files and not be able to restore the NTFS permissions, that can be a huge pain because they have to be applied manually after the fact. So back them up. You don't have to restore them if you don't want to, but at least you'll have that option if they are backed up. VSS we support using fast NTFS scans if you want to make sure that things are backed up very quickly. We do support EFS encrypted volumes. We can decrypt that data at backup time if you want, so you don't have to worry about the encryption that's on it, or you can keep the EFS encryption. If you do that, you're going to have to make sure you back up the certificates properly. You'll decide what's easier for you when you're managing your customers, but that option is there. Here's where you decide what you want to back up. I think, well, here I just have something under my user account selected, and I'm just going to leave it like that. Filtering, you can back up certain files, ignore others that are older if you don't want to back up old files. Compression and encryption, turn them both on. They're important. Compression will reduce the data set size. Encryption is very important. AES 256 is my recommendation. Put a nice long password in there. Store your passwords in your credential management database, whatever you're using for it. Don't write them on a Post-it note. We know Post-it notes are still out there.
Just stick it to the monitor, right? Or under the keyboard.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't do that. Although I see that happening all the time. If you want a password hint, now there's a new option in the product that can allow you to restore encryption passwords with a master password. I won't talk about that here, but it is available. If you're concerned about it, you can enable that option. And then we'll use public key, private key with a password that you provide that only you have, that we don't store, for restoring those keys if they're ever needed because you lost them for some reason, which might be a concern. You know, maybe you're using a password manager and it gets hacked. Wink, wink to somebody who was just hacked recently, and luckily nobody had their stuff lost, but who knows what went on. Consistency checks I mentioned, that'll just make sure the backup files that are existing are there and they're the right backup files. If not, we can alert you that something happened. Scheduling, you do need to do scheduling. Schedule your incremental backups and your full backups as needed. Let's say I want to do my incremental daily, and I'll do my full backup on the first Wednesday of every month. That's how I have this one set up. So once a month backups. The next thing is retention. Whoops. Next. Yes, I know. Oh, it's not going to let me pass that because I already have something set on the next. All right, let me do monthly. Let me just do daily, just on Sundays right now. That should get me. I am once a week, aren't I? Oh, I'm sorry. This is the problem. Silly me. I thought I had something set that I could. I never picked my incremental days. I want to do incremental backups. Let's say I'm going to skip Saturday because there's no activity. And then let's keep my backups just monthly on say the first Wednesday of every month. Okay, that's fine. Now, retention policy. This could be a little confusing to folks that see it for the first time. And by the way, we have a great help desk, a great support system with support techs that can help you out. We also have onboarding services. So if you're worried about the time it's going to cost you and your technicians to, implement a new backup solution, you can do onboarding services. I think it's only $500 to MSP360, and you can work with one of our onboarding team members, and they will help you get things deployed and configured right. Could save you a lot because your billable time might be worth a lot more. But over here is where we're going to do two things. We're going to decide how many backups we want to keep. So let's say I want to keep every backup for 90 days. So that means the fulls and all of the incrementals I'm going to keep for 90 days. But if I want to use GFS, GFS is sort of like an add-on retention option, and stands for grandfather, father, son. It's a style of retention that allows you to keep data for longer, but less granular as it ages. So since we're doing only monthly full backups, I don't have a weekly option here that I can do, because it'll bark at me and say you can't do that. But let's say I want to keep monthly backups for 6 months, and I want to keep annual backups for 3 years. What this will do is allow me to keep full backups for 6 full months. Now I'm going to keep everything for the first 90 days. That way I can restore anything. And then after that, I'm going to get monthly backups for up to 6 months. And then I'm going to get annual backups for 3 years. And let's say right now it's September. So the next full backup is going to run in October, and I want my first annual full backup to be in October. That's how it'll start. Now, if I want immutability, I can enable it there, and you're going to have to confirm it. Now, we do use governance mode for our immutability. Governance mode means that regular accounts who have access to the cloud, to your cloud storage, will not be able to delete any backups. And that includes the account you're going to be using to access your cloud storage from MSP360. However, your root account that you have for your cloud storage account will have the ability. That's important because it gives you the ability as an MSP to lock down that root account and not use it, but have it in case you offboard a customer. The last thing you want to be doing is working with a customer who says, I need 7 years worth of backups because I work with the IRS and I need to retain all of the tax forms that I filed on behalf of my customers for that long. And you set up GFS for 7 years, and then they go out of business. And now you're stuck with 7 years worth of backups that you're going to continue to have to pay for because you can't remove them. By using governance mode, you will have that ability to remove them in an emergency if needed, but no other accounts would have that ability. So you can enable immutability, and that's really it. And then click save, and that backup plan will run on schedule as needed. And as I tell most customers, it's really kind of like a set it and forget it. You're not going to have to worry about coming back to this user interface unless you get a notification alert that something happened. Now, if you do get an alert, you may come into reporting and go into go into reporting and go into backup history to see what's going on. And since I haven't generated an alert in a long time, I'm just going to go back to a month where I'm pretty sure I have one right here. So let's say you got an alert that there was a warning on a backup. You could come in here as the technician to research it, click on it, see what's going on. I could see here that a file or folder that was selected for backup could not be found at backup time. Now you have to worry about subfolders changing if you select the master folder, say C users or something like that. But if you've explicitly selected a folder for backup and it goes missing, you're going to get a warning about it. If you want to see exactly what happened, you can click on the details, and we can see here that there was a path not found on this legal documents 2 folder. Now, at this point, I would probably reach out to that end user and ask them what's going on. They may say, you know what? I don't know what happened. Let me check my trash, my recycle bin. It's not there. Oh my gosh, I lost all of my legal documents. What am I going to do? I'm going to get fired. They're not going to get fired because you're just going to restore that folder for them, and then the plan will auto-correct. If, however, you know, they don't want it there anymore, you can just edit the plan. Very easy to do. Now, if you do need to access them, let's say you're going to do a, if you're going to go to, they're like, I don't know what happened. Can you help me out? I need to get on that system. You can remotely connect. You can come here and click the connect button. And as I mentioned earlier, you can go ahead and do an join an active Windows session. This is for interactive help desk. I have this set up for a PIN right now. So the remote user is going to get an alert on their desktop that with the PIN, they will have to communicate that to you. If you want to set it up with just a confirmation dialog, you can do that. If you're doing this without an end user there, you could just log in with you know, Windows authentication without worrying about getting any kind of confirmation from them. So then I can connect to the remote system. I'll be on it and I can do whatever kind of administration I need to do remotely. Now, if I'm on with them, I can voice chat, I can text chat, I can adjust the image quality in case I'm on a bad connection or maybe over my mobile network. I can do full file transfer if I need. If I'm like, if I need to send them a new printer driver or something, I could just copy it over there very easily. I can give them whatever I need and do any kind of the interactive support I need, solve their issue. And then when I'm done, connect and they can go back to work, right? Very easy. If they need to connect to another remote system at their end, they could even do that. And you could have kind of nested remote sessions. If you need to get on a call with another administrator because you're training them on how to do something, you can do that as well. It's all very easy. Now, let's talk a little bit about RMM and the kind of things you can do with it. Since we're kind of running low on time, I want to kind of finish up in the next 5. So I can give you some important links to go to and show you a picture of the Sonos again. Now, there is an RMM button over there. If the RMM has not been granted a license, there'll be an option to grant it and pull from your license pool. You can always see general information. Information is persisted. So if the agent goes offline, for some reason, you can always see what was last collected on that agent without having to be actively connected to it. You can see information about the computer, which may be important. You can see what's running through the task manager, any running processes that you could stop if needed. See a list of services if you were concerned about what was running or a services that was off. I'll wait for that to load. It's a server, so there's probably a ton of services, so we'll let that go through its thing. You can do installed software as well. Do your Windows patch management if needed. Come on, services, do your thing. There we go. I apologize, that server is on a very slow VM, so that's probably why it's taking so long. You could do patch management. You could see the current set of hardware, see hard drive information if needed. Monitor the antivirus if you want. So you could click on antivirus. You can see that this is running Deep Instinct, which is our new endpoint security solution. Or if you're running different solutions that allow for scanning and updating, you could click off a scan or see the last update status. You could do it things like look at the recent event log. If there was an error, you could click on it and see what's going on. You may be notified about that. If you're on a Hyper-V host, you can start and stop VMs. You can run PowerShell. As I mentioned, anything that you need to do that can change the remote system is behind 2FA. So you'll have to type in your 2FA code here to actually change it. You can review the registry if needed. And also change it. If you do try to change it, though, you'll be prompted. Now, there's some important group actions I want to show you up here. The group actions are important because they provide a ton of cool functionality. Group actions allow you to do some very interesting things. You can open up a PowerShell terminal to multiple endpoints. You can execute a PowerShell script. Let's say you want to do like a print nightmare remediation. I don't know if everybody remembers earlier this year, or it was late last year, there was a print spooler issue on Windows, and Microsoft was recommending that if, especially on domain servers, but any system that did not need to print, to disable the print spooler. Well, how do you do that? Sure, you could visit each endpoint manually, go to services and disable it, but maybe there's an easier way, and that would be by executing a PowerShell script to turn off the print spooler and disable it. But you can also do things like run Windows updates across multiple endpoints, install software. Great if you want to deploy, maybe deploying Notepad++, right? Better Notepad, a text editor to all of your endpoints. You don't want to do that individually. You can just deploy it with a command line script across multiple endpoints. You can even uninstall software. So same thing with Notepad++, which was just a potential security issue, right? That I read about through its plugin manager. Let's say you had it deployed and you were concerned about securing the plugins, but you wanted to make sure it was disabled. Until then, you could uninstall Notepad++ across all of your endpoints. But let's go ahead and execute a PowerShell script real quickly. We can see that we can pick any of the endpoints there. I'm just going to pick that one slow server that I connect to earlier. I'm going to connect in with my 2FA account. Once I scroll over, that's me reaching for my phone so I can see my 2FA. Just cycled. Of course, it changes. Oh, I got the wrong one. Sorry. There it is. Apologize. Oh my gosh. Just changed on me. 907. There we go. Okay, I apologize for that. I didn't have my phone in a handy spot. All right, so I'm going to pick the script right here. This is my PowerShell script that's going to disable the print spooler, and then it's going to go ahead and run on all the endpoints that you selected. And you can click on here to see the status of the script. All right, so it was running, the print spooler was enabled. Now the print spooler is stopped. And if I use my Connect product right now, you would see that the print spooler is not only stopped, but also the service is disabled. So it's very easy to do that kind of stuff. The last thing I'll mention is that there will be Deep Instinct integration in this console with the new column, but you can do some installations around Deep Instinct now to get it quickly installed. I'm not going to talk mostly about it because there's a lot to talk about with Deep Instinct. And it's really amazing technology. Unlike just about every other EDR, XDR, antivirus solution in the market, you may not even have heard of it because it's used primarily by very large global customers. But through our partnership with Deep Instinct, we are making it available to a whole new set of customers for them. So it's going to be available at only $3 an endpoint per month. And there'll be more coming about that. If you're interested, you can certainly ask about why their deep learning, artificial intelligence is really so much better than everything else that's out there. So let me go back to the demo. Let me just mention, since we're running out of time, 3 minutes left, if you are interested, if you're a backup customer and want to see the RMM and Connect, or maybe you're a backup customer and are really interested in seeing, what Deep Instinct can do for you and your customers, head over to MSP360.com, reach out to your account manager if you already have one. If you want a trial, you can go to MSP360.com. You can set up a private demo if you want with our staff. I always recommend a private demo. You've had one now, more or less. But maybe you didn't see something that you really need for you. Maybe I used a different cloud storage provider. Maybe I didn't do the type of backup you want to see. Bother our team because it's no bother at all. They're there to do demos, to walk you through the product. So I definitely encourage you to do it. The Deep Instinct product is not available by itself. You must either be using Managed Backup or RMM. You don't have to be using both of them, but you can be. If you have those products, then you can add Deep Instinct to any of those customers. All right. Also head over to our MSP University on our website. There's a ton of free information for MSPs that we wrote for MSPs to help you guys run your MSP business. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, we're doing the giveaway of the Sonos Play 1. Please add a comment to the page on Facebook about MSP360, about something you like, about something that you rely on with any backup product, how important backup is to you, how much money you're able to make from it, whether it's us or somebody else. Say something about managed services if you want. Leave a comment of any type. We're going to review the comments and then we are going to pick a winner and we'll get in touch with you to get you the Sonos Play 1.
Sounds great.
I do want to thank Scott for having us today. And then I will leave it to you, Scott, to wrap it up.
Well, I just wanted to say, if anybody is watching in the audience and they are interested, if you have not worked yet with MSP360, you are interested in doing that, be sure to let their team know that you heard about them from IT Business Owners Group. And I thank you for your time, David, and we'll be in touch with the winner of the Sonos Play System. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.